Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. In the heart of a world turned to dust and desolation, where the once vibrant forests had long since withered to ash and the cities had crumbled into the sand, a boy named Ryan stood at the edge of his dying village, gazing out at the endless expanse of barren land that stretched as far as the eye could see. The wind howled through the empty streets, carrying with it the ghosts of a time when magic flowed freely through the land, bringing life to every corner of the earth. But that time had passed, and now, the world was a shadow of its former self. Ryan was 16, though the harshness of the world had aged him beyond his years. His green eyes, once bright with the curiosity of youth, now carried a weight that came from witnessing too much loss. His village, once nestled within a thriving forest, was now a collection of crumbling huts, the last refuge of a handful of survivors clinging to the hope that life might one day return to their world. But even that hope was fading, as the land grew more barren with each passing day. The elders of the village had always spoken of the Tree of Life, a legendary tree said to hold the power to restore magic to the world. But it was a tale whispered more as a comfort to the young than as a truth to be believed. Ryan had heard the story countless times, always dismissing it as a myth, a relic of a past that no longer existed. Yet, as he stood there, staring at the horizon, he felt something stir deep within him, something he had never felt before. It was a faint, almost imperceptible pulse, like the heartbeat of the earth itself, calling to him from far away. Ryan's breath caught in his throat as he closed his eyes, focusing on the sensation. It was as if a thread of energy, long dormant, had suddenly awakened within him, reaching out to something ancient and powerful. The realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. He was the seeker, the one destined to find the Tree of Life. He didn't know how he knew, but he knew. It was as if the knowledge had been there all along, buried deep within his soul, waiting for the right moment to emerge. And now, with the world on the brink of collapse, that moment had arrived. The village elders had told him about the seekers, individuals born with the ability to sense the Tree of Life and lead others to its location. But the last seeker had died centuries ago, and with no one to find the tree, the world had slowly decayed into the lifeless desert it was today. Now, against all odds, Ryan had been chosen as the next seeker, and with that realization came a responsibility that weighed heavily on his shoulders. He knew what he had to do. Ryan turned away from the desolate landscape and walked back toward the village, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. He had to tell the elders what he had discovered, had to begin his journey to find the Tree of Life. But as he approached the small circle of huts where the elders lived, he couldn't shake the feeling that this journey would not be as straightforward as the stories had led him to believe. Inside the largest of the huts, the elders were gathered around a fire, their faces lined with the weariness of years spent watching their world fade away. Ryan hesitated at the entrance, suddenly unsure of himself. What if they didn't believe him? What if he was wrong? But as he stood there, the pulsing sensation in his chest grew stronger, urging him forward. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the hut. The elders looked up as he entered, their eyes reflecting the dim light of the fire. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the crackling of the flames. Then, one of the elders, a woman with silver hair and a voice like wine through the trees, spoke. "Ryan," she said softly, her gaze piercing through him. "What brings you here?" Ryan swallowed, his throat dry. I think I've found the Tree of Life," he said, the words feeling strange on his tongue. The elders exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. The silver-haired woman leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Explain," she said, her tone gentle but firm. Ryan took another deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. "I felt something today, an energy, a pulse. It was faint, but it was there. I think I think it's the tree of life calling to me." There was a long pause as the elders absorbed his words. Ryan could see the skepticism in their eyes, but also something else, something that looked like hope. The silver-haired woman finally spoke again. "If what you say is true, then you may be our last chance," she said, her voice heavy with the weight of the situation. "The tree of life is not just a legend, Ryan. It is real, and it is the only thing that can save our world. But finding it will not be easy. The journey will be dangerous, and there are many who would seek to use the tree's power for their own ends." Ryan nodded, understanding the gravity of the task before him. "I know," he said quietly. "But I have to try. If there's even a chance that I can find the tree and restore life to the world, I have to take it." The elders nodded in agreement, their expressions grim. "Very well," the silver-haired woman said. "We will give you what guidance we can, but the path is yours to walk. You will need companions for this journey, those who can help you face the dangers that lie ahead." Ryan had expected this. He knew that he couldn't undertake such a perilous journey alone. But he also knew that finding trustworthy companions in a world where survival often meant looking out for oneself would be no small feat. The elders provided Ryan with an ancient, tattered map, one that had been passed down through generations of seekers. The map was barely legible, its lines faded and worn, but it was all they had. The tree of life was said to be hidden deep within a forgotten forest, one that had withered and died along with the rest of the world. The map would guide him to this forest, but from there, the path was unknown. Armed with the map and the knowledge that he was the last hope for his people, Ryan set out from the village. He knew not where his journey would lead, only that he must follow the pulse within him, the call of the tree of life. The first leg of his journey took him through the remnants of the great desert, a vast expanse of sand and rock that had once been the heart of a thriving kingdom. Now, it was a wasteland, its cities buried beneath dunes, its people scattered or dead. Ryan traveled for days, his supplies dwindling, the sun beating down mercilessly. But the pulse within him never wavered, guiding him onward. It was on the edge of the desert that he met his first companion, Allure. She was a fierce young woman with eyes as sharp as her blade, and a demeanor that spoke of battles fought and lost. Ryan found her in the ruins of an old outpost, where she was fending off a group of bandits. Despite her slim frame, she moved with the precision of a warrior, cutting down her attackers with deadly efficiency. When the last of the bandits fell, Ryan approached cautiously, unsure how she would react to his presence. But Allure merely wiped the blood from her blade and looked him over with a calculating gaze. "You're not from around here," she said, her voice flat and unemotional. Ryan shook his head. "No. I'm from a village far to the east. I'm on a journey to find the tree of life." Allure's eyes flickered with interest at the mention of the tree, but her expression remained guarded. "And why should I care about that?" "Because without it, our world will continue to die," Ryan replied, meeting her gaze. "I can't do this alone. I need help." For a moment, Allure said nothing. Then she sheathed her sword and nodded. "Fine. I'll come with you. But only because I have nothing left to lose." And so, with Allure by his side, Ryan continued his journey. The two traveled together for several days, forging an uneasy alliance. Allure was a woman of few words, but her presence was a comfort to Ryan, who had never ventured beyond his village before. She spoke little of her past, and Ryan did not press her for details, sensing that her scars ran deep. Their path led them to the edge of the Whispering Woods, a forest that had once been a place of great beauty and magic. Now, it was a twisted, dying land, its trees gnarled and lifeless, its ground cracked and barren. The woods were said to be haunted by the remnants of creatures that had once thrived in the presence of magic, but had since been twisted into something dark and dangerous. It was here that they encountered Corinne, a former mage who had lost his powers when the world's magic began to fade. He was an older man, with a grizzled beard and a cynical outlook on life. They found him living in a small, makeshift camp at the edge of the woods, surrounded by old books and relics of a time when magic still held sway. Corinne was initially suspicious of the young travelers, but when Ryan told him of his quest to find the Tree of Life, the old mage's interest was piqued. Though he had lost his magic, Corinne had not lost his knowledge of the arcane, and he agreed to join them, if only to see if the tree could indeed restore the power he had once wielded. With Corinne's knowledge of magic and Alara's skill in combat, the group pressed onward into the Whispering Woods. The journey through the forest was fraught with danger, as they encountered creatures twisted by the loss of magic, once majestic beings, now reduced to shadows of their former selves. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, and even the trees seemed to whisper warnings as they passed. As they ventured deeper into the woods, Ryan's connection to the Tree of Life grew stronger, guiding them toward their destination. But with each step, he also began to feel a growing unease. The tree's power was immense, and the closer they got, the more he realized that it was not just a source of life, it was a force of nature, capable of both creation and destruction. It was during one of the nights they spent in the woods that Talia first appeared to Ryan. She came to him in a dream, her form shifting and ethereal, like a ghost made of moonlight. In the dream, she spoke to him in a voice that was both soothing and unsettling, warning him of the dangers ahead. "The Tree of Life is more than what you seek," she said, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Its power is beyond your understanding. It can restore life to the world, but it can also destroy it." Ryan woke from the dream with a start, his heart racing. The warning weighed heavily on him, but he did not share it with his companions. He knew they were already burdened with enough fear and doubt, and he did not want to add to it. Instead, he kept the dream to himself, vowing to remain vigilant as they drew closer to the tree. After many days of travel, they finally reached the heart of the Whispering Woods, a place where the trees grew tall and twisted, their branches interwoven like the fingers of a giant hand. In the center of this eerie grove stood the Tree of Life, but it was not the tree Ryan had imagined. The Tree of Life was ancient, its bark cracked and withered, its branches bare and skeletal. It stood alone in the center of the grove, a solitary figure in a land of death. But despite its appearance, the tree radiated a powerful energy, one that pulsed through the air like a heartbeat. Ryan approached the tree with a sense of awe and trepidation. He could feel its power coursing through him, filling him with a strange, overwhelming sensation. It was as if the tree was alive, aware of his presence, and it was reaching out to him, inviting him to unlock its secrets. As Ryan stood before the tree, Talia appeared once more, this time in the waking world. She emerged from the shadows of the grove, her form still ethereal, but more solid than before. The others watched in stunned silence as she approached Ryan, her eyes fixed on the Tree of Life. "The time has come, Ryan," she said, her voice echoing in the stillness of the grove. "The Tree of Life holds the power to restore magic to the world. But it is not without cost." Ryan swallowed, his mouth dry. "What do you mean?" Talia's gaze softened, and she placed a hand on the trunk of the tree. "The Tree of Life has been absorbing the world's magic for centuries, storing it within itself to preserve its own life. But now, it is dying. To restore magic to the world, the tree must release all the power it has stored, and in doing so, it will exhaust its life force." Ryan felt a knot form in his stomach. "So, if we use the tree's power, it will die?" Yes, Talia replied. And the release of that much magic all at once could have unforeseen consequences. The balance of the world could be disrupted, and the very thing you seek to save could be destroyed. Ryan's mind raced as he tried to process this revelation. The tree of life was their only hope, but using its power could doom them all. It was a choice between saving the world now, with the risk of destroying it in the process, or allowing the tree to slowly heal the world over centuries, leaving countless generations to suffer in the meantime. Before Ryan could respond, Corinne stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with desperation. "We have no choice," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "We must use the tree's power now. The world cannot survive without magic, and I cannot survive without it. If we wait, it will be too late." Elara moved to stand between Ryan and Corinne, her hand on the hilt of her sword. "We need to think this through," she said, her tone firm. "We can't just act out of fear. We have to consider the consequences." Corinne's face twisted with anger. "You don't understand," he snapped. "I have lost everything because of the loss of magic. My powers, my purpose, gone. The tree of life is the only way to bring it all back. We must act now." The tension in the grove was palpable as the three stood at an impasse, each grappling with the weight of the decision before them. Ryan felt a surge of panic as he realized that the group was on the verge of fracturing, just when they needed to be united the most. But before anyone could make a move, the tree reacted. The air around them began to vibrate with energy, and the ground shook beneath their feet. The tree's bark glowed with a soft, eerie light, and a low hum filled the grove, growing louder with each passing second. Ryan's heart raced as he looked up at the tree, its power now fully awakened. He could feel the magic within it, a vast, untamed force that threatened to consume everything in its path. The tree was responding to their emotions, to their conflict, and it was preparing to unleash its power. Talia stepped forward, her voice urgent. "Ryan, you must decide now. The tree is reacting to your presence. If you do not take control, it will release its power uncontrollably, and the world will be lost." Ryan's mind raced as he weighed his options. He could feel the tree's power coursing through him, filling him with a sense of both exhilaration and terror. He knew that if he acted now, he could restore magic to the world, but at the cost of the tree of life, and possibly much more. But then he remembered Talia's warning, and he knew that he could not make this decision lightly. He couldn't risk the future of the world on a desperate gamble. There had to be another way. Drawing on every ounce of strength he had, Ryan reached out to the tree, not to take its power, but to communicate with it. He focused on the pulse he had felt from the beginning, the connection that had guided him to this point. He opened his mind to the tree, seeking to understand its true nature, and in that moment, the tree responded. The chaotic energy in the grove began to calm, the vibrations slowing to a gentle rhythm. The light from the tree softened, and the hum became a soothing melody. Ryan felt the tree's presence envelop him, filling him with a deep, profound understanding. The tree of life was not just a source of magic, it was a guardian of the balance between life and death, creation and destruction. It had absorbed the world's magic to preserve itself, yes, but also to protect the world from the chaos that would ensue if that power was released too quickly. Ryan realized that the tree was offering him a choice, not between life and death, but between the quick and easy path and the slow, patient one. He could choose to sacrifice the tree and restore magic instantly, but the risk was too great. Or, he could choose to leave the tree alive, allowing it to slowly heal the world over time. But there was another option, one that required a sacrifice he had not considered before. Ryan turned to Talia, his voice steady. "If I give the tree my life force, will it be enough to stabilize it? To ensure that it can restore magic to the world without destroying itself? Talia's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly understood. Yes, she said softly. But it will cost you everything. You will become one with the tree, a part of its essence. You will never leave this place. Ryan nodded, accepting the weight of his decision. I know. But it's the only way. Corinne opened his mouth to protest, but Alara placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. Let him do this, she said quietly. It's his choice. With that, Ryan stepped forward, placing his hands on the trunk of the tree. He felt the tree's energy surge through him, more powerful than anything he had ever imagined. It was overwhelming, but he did not resist. Instead, he allowed his own life force to flow into the tree, merging with its essence. The tree responded in kind, its bark glowing brighter, its branches beginning to sprout new leaves. The grove was filled with a warm, golden light, and the air hummed with the sound of life returning to the land. As Ryan's strength faded, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had done what needed to be done. The world would heal, slowly but surely, and magic would return. But it would do so in balance, without the destructive force that had threatened to consume everything. Ryan's vision began to blur, and he knew his time was short. He looked at Alara and Corinne, seeing the gratitude in their eyes, and he smiled. Take care of the world, he whispered, his voice barely audible. And remember, balance. And then, as the light of the tree enveloped him, Ryan closed his eyes, becoming one with the tree of life. In the years that followed, the world slowly began to heal. The deserts receded, giving way to new growth, and the remnants of magic that had once been scattered and weak began to strengthen. The Whispering Woods, once a place of death and decay, became a lush, vibrant forest, the tree of life at its heart. Alara fulfilled her promise, spreading the story of Ryan's sacrifice far and wide. The legend of the Last Seeker became a tale told around campfires, inspiring new generations to respect the balance of life and magic. The world was not fully restored, but it was on the path to recovery, and with time, it would flourish once more. And in the heart of the Whispering Woods, the tree of life stood tall and strong, its branches reaching toward the sky. Those who ventured into the grove would sometimes hear a whisper in the wind, a gentle reminder of the boy who had given everything to save the world. It was the voice of Ryan, the Last Seeker, now a guardian of the balance, ensuring that life and magic would endure for generations to come.